Great. Good day, everyone. Just letting everybody join. We'll give them a few seconds to join before we start.
Good afternoon.
Rex.
All right. Make sure I've muted everyone. Okay, great. It's working on our end. Okay, see myself scratching my face. Trying to do that. There we go. All right, great. Good day, everybody. Please, if you need anything, communicate on the chat. You're able to write down on the chat if you have any issues, or you can't hear us or something like that. So please do let us know. This is the fifth of a series of 4, actually. We put on 2 extra webinars, just due to the feedback from people and wanting more information on Go eligibility and market access to the US. So this is the 5th of a webinar. 4 webinars are planned, and yeah, we're pushing on to get more information out to people. It's focusing on compliance and certification to get you into the US market. There's a bit of focus on food and beverage, but it's also covering multiple other industries during today. Just for people joining in French or Portuguese, that gives you some information on how to access and utilize Zoom with headings, subtitles. So yeah, please utilize that. And we'll just go through the next slide. Give you some more information there. Take our time to provide that to people in another language. So I'll just go through that again. Great. So Cindy, you can hear me all right? Just double checking on my side. All good?
Yes, Rex, I can hear you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Cindy's project lead on this Engage Trade Africa program and sorry, ATI 001 program, and able to help you. And she'll be asking you throughout the session your contact details, because Zoom doesn't like to share that kind of stuff with us without us asking for them. So just be aware that Cindy is going to be messaging you privately on the chat and asking you for information. So please provide that with her, just so that she can capture that, as we have to feed that information back to USAID and Prosper Africa, as well as contact you afterwards to help you with the services of the program. I'm the moderator for today again. My name is Rex Bowden. I run a company called Catalyze. We are contracted by USAID and Prosper Africa to help people get access into the US market using AGOA. And just to really understand the opportunities and restrictions and requirements to these markets. We've got some great people helping us with that, and some of these are our speakers. So today we've got 3 speakers that are coming in from different parts of of the world. Firstly, Andrew Parshad from Quality Smart Solutions will start. He's coming to us from Canada. Does a lot of work in the US market as well. So access into the US and Canada through various registrations that you need in place, like FDA and Health Canada certification. And then Mit Pandalika from Luana Honey is coming to us from Zambia, from Lusaka. So yeah, we'll give us some information, quite a lot of experience in exporting into the US. And very on the ground experience as well, because he's currently going through a lot of stuff at the moment and adapting his products in certain ways that certain buyers need and getting the right registrations and all the stuff that's needed there. And then thirdly, we'll have Daniel Kotzer from EcoCert. Daniel runs a company that certifies companies as natural and organic, based in South Africa, and does a lot of the certification for any company that's trying to get into international market or even into registered in the South African market, and get that assurance that their products are natural and organic. To give you, starting off with my little insight into how this program is running, these are webinars that are done to help drive this program. We do a very nice thing, is that we do these 3 hour, sort of 2 to 3 hour programs of webinars with really deep insight, and then we edit them up for you guys and send it over so that you do get access into that, but really making sure that you understand what's going into the market as well and what's required. So we're running a program for Prosper Africa in USA called AGOA Eligibility and Trade Logistics Customer Support Services. So we've got a customer support service team that helps contact you and find out what your issues is. If it's AGOA eligibility requirements, if it's logistics issues that you might have problems with certain documents and needing to know what documents you need, we help you with that. And then if it's trade sort of related, we come with years of experience of taking companies to markets all over the world, and to go to trade shows and source buyers and where do you find that kind of stuff out. And we're able to give you some guidance on that as well. As mentioned, we're running these association training sessions. So these are meant for associations, but also for individual exporters and buyers as well, to give them insight on what you need for product. We focusing on associations as a start, but understand there's a lot of companies that need this key information. So we're providing it to everybody on this. There's a lot of marketing and PR going out, and we actually sat with the USA MEL team today, and I was just discussing how great it is that there's a lot of information going out from AGOA, not just from Catalyze. There's a couple of other parties on in this program as well. Lots of information going out on the use of AGOA and encouraging people to use it and realizing it's not impossible to use, and it's something that is available to most Africans as well. So please, have a look on that. It's lots of opportunity that I'm seeing at the moment, a lot more access and interest in African products when we are out at international shows in the last few months. And then just to give you some insight into other Catalyze projects that we're running at the moment. Just so you understand how the customer support service program works, very simple. As mentioned, we've got a great team underneath us of a few people supporting you in this. We contacting a load of different buyers and sellers and distributors and various people that can utilize this program. And then it's a very simple fill in a form, so we can understand what you are and what you're needing, and get real insight into your company. We then assess and clarify the issue. So if you've left some information out or it seems a bit vague, we'll actually call you and we'll find out what exactly you need and the support you need. And then we'll manage that. So we will, if it requires escalation to our experts, it will go through to them, and we'll answer you on email and communicate in different either WhatsApp or various other formats as well. And then if we still can't get to the bottom of your answer by using the services at our fingertips, which is platforms like agoa.info, then we will set up some kind of a meeting for you with that AGOA expert or logistics expert, and really walk you through the program as well, and ensure you can your questions are answered satisfactorily. Two experts we've got working on this program are King Cargo and Trellick. Rowan King comes from King Cargo, years of experience of helping companies get products into markets across loads of different industries. Does a lot of exhibition freights as well. So very last minute stuff and getting documents in place, very good at that. And then Eckhart Naumann from Trellick. Trellick are the custodians of agoa.info, which is everything you need to know on AGOA. Is a way to find out about your eligibility straight away on the front homepage of that platform. Please go on there, have a look, and there's lots of exporter toolkits and various other things on there, and information about what's going on in AGOA at the moment, and requirements for your company to get your products into market. So great to have those two experts helping us. As mentioned, this is the 5th of 4, but now going to be the 5th of 6 presentations and webinars that we do on the market. You do have access to the past 4 as well. So we have those on YouTube. It is available for you. As mentioned, we also reduced the 2 to 3 hour webinars into a 3-minute just sort of summary of it, so you can kind of see what was interesting and not, and where you want to go. So yeah, made it very simple for you to access these. If you are still looking for stuff, please, we need to just move that, sorry. Video. There we go. We're able to supply that information to you straight away. So we've just completed our animated video as well. So there's a great animated video you'll see going out in English, French, and Portuguese. So that's available to everybody. Again, driving the use of AGOA. As I said, the training sessions are edited, the webinars are edited, and PR is going out on various platforms to the market. Then just to finish my little roundup, so Catalyze, just so that you know who we are, we do various things. We organize international pavilions of South African companies going to trade shows all over the world, and African as well. So we often get groups from Kenya, Rwanda, Ethiopia, and various other regions at international shows. We support those. We help build stands at those events and give them access to great locations and the right people at those shows. So we help with that. We also have started doing in the last few years B2B matchmaking and hosted buyer programs. B2B matchmaking, and if you look on our socials, we've just done something up in Kenya at the moment last week, and it was a trade show with a pavilion, but we had matchmaking program alongside it and brought buyers to people, to the exhibitors, to make sure that they're engaging with the right people and having the right conversations, and it's not just left to chance at a trade show. So yeah, have a look at that. We also do that for individual companies, and we do it for national groups as well, on a program basis. So have a look at that. We also do hosted buyer programs where we look at bringing amazing buyers from around the world to Cindy, can you find out who that is speaking there? I'm not sure why it's someone is speaking in the background. Who is that? Let's have a look. Cool. Yeah, we do these hosted buyer programs and bringing buyers from around the world to market in Africa as well. And that's a really great program as well. We also brings a buyer to see what's actually happening on the ground, check out factories, meet a lot more producers and manufacturers in the market and exporters. So that's also a great program that we run. We run some of our own events as well. 2 key industry events: Africa Games Week, which is the largest video game industry event in Africa. It's actually the largest gathering of African video game developers and industry partners in the world. Last year, hitting 300 plus developers and industry professionals from Africa, plus hundreds of others from around the world to come and access the market and develop that. And then the other is Ocean Innovation Africa, which is the largest blue economy event in Africa, and really driving the blue economy across Africa and the sustainability of it, as well as connecting key people in the industry. So a great one to also have a look at. We also run the Engage Trade Africa program with USAID. So that's driving business between Africa, so intra-Africa trade between various African countries and South Africa, as well as driving trade into the US. So bringing out buyers. We look at bringing a whole lot of people to a show each year, Engage Trade Africa, and do a whole lot of B2B meetings at that event and sort of peer-to-peer knowledge building as well within the industry. That happened last in March this year to a great group of people and awesome connections around the world. Great. So first up, speaking today is Andrew Prashad. Andrew, are you there? Can you get your camera on?
I am here, yes. Let me just get that going here. There we go. And let me know when you want me to share my screen.
I'll let you know once I've finished on this. So just a little intro to Andrew. Andrew's from Quality Smart Solutions. He's based in Canada. He's going to be talking to us today on FDA requirements to sell food and beverages into the USA. Just to give you a little bit of background into Andrew, he is president, CEO, and founder of Quality Smart Solutions, which is a North American compliance solution provider, offering regulatory and quality assurance services to comply with FDA and Health Canada finished products and ingredients regulations, covering the categories of dietary supplements, foods, cosmetics, OTC drugs, and medical devices. So lots of companies that can deal with Andrew in that, coming from Africa. Andrew started Quality Smart Solutions in 2007. Since that time, he and his firm have served over 2,000 clients worldwide. Andrew started a second affiliate company called Quality Import Solutions that offers import agent services into the Canadian market as a government licensed importer for foods, dietary supplements, and medical devices. So great to have Andrew on board today. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Andrew, you can share on your side and we can go from there.
All right, great. Thanks very much, Rex. Okay.
Yeah.
Can everyone see my screen?
All good.
All good. All right, perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining for this session, and thank you, Rex, for putting this this webinar together. So just a quick overview about Quality Smart Solutions, which Rex covered much of. So we've established our organization back in 2007. Since that time, we've served over 2,000 clients, completed over 120,000 services in that 17 years. Our team consists of over 25 experts. Some are former government agency employees. They have quality assurance background. They come from various industries, from food, drug, medical device, and dietary supplement. Both government agencies as well as industry. Now, as Max mentioned, we cover North America, so that means we cover both FDA and Health Canada compliance solutions, and that's for the categories of consumer packaged goods, which include dietary supplements or food supplements, sometimes it's called in other markets, or natural health products, as it's called in Canada. We also cover foods, which are conventional foods, as well as supplemented foods or fortified foods, and cosmetics. There's a lot of regulation changes in the US with cosmetics, but I won't be covering that in this presentation. And then also pharmaceuticals, which are OTC drugs and medical devices. We're actually we've expanded that service into new drug submissions, primarily more abbreviated new drug submissions. So, and then just in terms of food solutions for US, which I'll get into. That's just a quick summary of some of those services. And then we have two offices in North America. So we have an office in Atlanta, Georgia, in the US, and then in Canada, which is our headquarter offices. It's in Burlington, Ontario, which is about 45 minutes from Toronto, if you're wondering exactly where Burlington is. Okay, so let's hop into it, talking about the regulations in the United States. So there's really a couple of governing bodies that oversee foods in the US. So there's the US Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. There's the USDA, or the US Department of Agriculture, which covers also meats and seafoods. And then there's the Border Agency, which is the Customs and Border Protection. They're really the gateway to getting into the US. And they work hand in hand with the FDA and the USDA. There are officers typically at all ports of entry that are covering these three. So it's not just a customs officer, it is an FDA inspector that's there as well, just to ensure that anything that's coming in is complying with all the requirements. There are several sets of regulations that apply to foods. So there's, number one, there was the Bioterrorism Act. It came into effect back in 2001, just after 9/11. And then there's something that's more recent, which is FSMA, which is the Food Safety Modernization Act, that came into effect in 2016. It was just a way for just improving the overall regulations on how foods are grown and harvested and processed, and more of a program for traceability, and putting the onus more on the company, exporting or growing or whatnot foods. And basically, this program was developed with Canada. So Canada has a similar program called the Safe Food for Canadian Regulations. So both countries work together to create this program, because there is a lot of trade that happens between those two countries, and they figured let's standardize our programs to be very similar in what we're asking. And in fact, there are some, as noted here, the US and Canada developed this food safety systems recognition arrangement. So it allows US companies to get an import license, even though they are not in Canada. That's the only country worldwide that Canada recognizes in terms of allowing a non-resident import license. So, labels in the United States. There are several requirements, and I won't get into the nitty-gritty. That's there's a lot of technicalities to it. This is kind of generally what nutrition facts table looks like. There's the calories is in bold and larger font size. This is actually a change that came that was rolled out, started several years ago, and there was a transition period, and so that is now over. So all companies that launch foods in the United States are expected to have this nutrition facts panel. So there are elements on the table, such as the common name of the product, the net quantity that goes on the principal display panel, serving size, the ingredient listings have to be there, and of course the nutrition facts panel, and any kind of nutrient claims have to align with the nutrition facts. So it's the basis of, what is the cutoff for a certain amount of, say, sugars, to say sugar-free versus low in sugar, same with low in fat, those types of nutrient claims. There's also a requirement for allergens on the labels as well, and that was recently expanded just not too long ago, and it now includes sesame as an allergen. So this is the biggest piece that typically comes up when it comes to recalls. Allergens are a huge risk factor for foods. And in terms of non-compliance of labels, if allergens are missing, it's usually just a stop sale, recall, and that whole process. So it's really important that allergens are fully listed, and so that's going through all the ingredients and the ingredients that are used to make some of those ingredients as well. It's really going deep dive to determine that all the allergens are stated on the label. So the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has published a guide to help label these U.S. foods. It is an interesting read. It's complex because there are factors that are not just nutrition facts tables, but it's also, related to the facts table, the dimensions of the label. Basically, the die line size can also dictate the type of nutrition facts table you use, whether it's tabular, whether it's linear. Those are all factors that have to be considered too. Of course, all ingredients that are used in foods must be GRAS, or generally regarded as safe. So what is GRAS? It stands for generally regarded as safe. And so these are, ingredients, whether they're naturally or synthetically derived, and they may have various uses. So it could be a novel food, it could be a food additive, like an enzyme or a coloring agent or sweetener or whatnot, or it could be a processing aid. Maybe it's used in the production of that or extraction of that ingredient, and all of those must be GRAS. Now, GRAS in the United States, compared to most of the other world, of the rest of the world's regulatory programs, the FDA has some flexibility with GRAS. So GRAS can be either self-affirmed, where you can substantiate the evidence for GRAS, and that includes manufacturing, stability, testing, intended use, which subpopulation is it targeted, what's the exposure in terms of daily consumption, and then in terms of safety evidence, typically toxicology studies have to be presented to show proof of safety. All that goes into a dossier. There are basically 7 sections in a GRAS dossier. Sometimes an expert panel, which is typically 3 or 4 people that review the dossier. That can be prepared, and you don't have to submit it to FDA. And that's what they call self-affirmed. And so ingredient buyers, manufacturers, they typically ask for a dossier, like if it's self-affirmed. That's one route. Another route is you're actually filing it with the FDA. So it's the same pathway as self-affirmed, just an additional step of actually submitting a notice to the FDA. It takes about 1.5 years to get a final decision of a no objection from the FDA. And anything that's submitted to the FDA, it goes in a public inventory database. So it is quite a lengthy process in terms of the FDA, but if it's self-affirmed, it takes a few months, and you have a dossier, and you can hand that out. So it's really important that all your ingredients are GRAS, meet the definition of GRAS, whether it's self-affirmed or notified and publicly stated on the database. When you're bringing foods into the United States, number one, we talked about the label compliance of foods. Another piece that is required is you need to have an import agent in the United States. So if that foreign company doesn't have a U.S. owner, or doesn't have a consignee or an importer, then they have to appoint a representative in the United States who acts as that FSVP agent. And that FSVP agent needs to be a qualified individual with experience with food safety, regulations related to compliance, understanding FDA regulations, all of those things. And they have to have an FSVP plan in place. And that's subject to an audit or inspection by the FDA at any time. And it's really the responsibility of that FSVP agent to ensure the foods coming in, the supplier has been verified. So FSVP stands for Foreign Supplier Verification Program, FSVP. And so it's really the job of that FSVP agent to check to make sure that the facility has a food safety plan in place, that they're following HACCP or PCP. Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point is what HACCP stands for. PCP is a Preventive Control Plan. They need to have those in place, the manufacturer, so that it eliminates or reduces risk when exporting to the United States. Of course, all the testing and whatnot needs to be done on a lot-by-lot basis. The FSVP agent also conducts a hazard analysis, which they need to keep on file in the event they're ever audited. And we of course, can help and act as your FSVP agent. In fact, our agent on our team, he's a former FDA inspector. He's with the agency for 19 years, and he's well networked with the agency still. He has a number of colleagues, so that doesn't hurt. Another piece that's required is you need to register your facility with the FDA, and so if you are a foreign facility, you do need to have a U.S. agent. If you're domestic in the United States, there's no U.S. agent, but you do need to have one if you are anywhere abroad. So, and this came into effect part of the Bioterrorism Act and FSMA. So this has been around, actually, the facility program has been around for a while. And that this is kept on file with the FDA. If there's ever safety concerns, they can, eliminate that registration. They could also audit your facility. They do that internationally. So it's not just kept domestically. In fact, we have a client in India that is about to have an FDA audit, and they've asked us to accompany, be there on site when the FDA conducts their audit. So our FSVP agent will be making that trek out for that audit. In addition, basically, when you register your facility, you need to have a unique facility identifier, UFI. And so currently the FDA only recognizes one UFI, and that is the DUNS number, the Data Universal Numbering System. And that's registered for every single facility. So, if you look up Unilever example on the DUNS inventory database, on their database, they have 50, 60 plus registrations, because every single site that they have has a separate DUNS number. The DUNS number is free to register, and you can go on the Duns and Bradstreet website and follow those instructions. Pretty easy to do. Probably take you maybe an hour tops to get that done. But it's important to get that DUNS number so that the facility registration can be completed. The U.S. agent is a person or company located in the United States. So they're a U.S. citizen that communicates on behalf of the company with the FDA in the event there's ever something that comes up. So it's really a placeholder. on the that's associated with the facility. Typically, they don't get that U.S. agent doesn't get engaged, but it is mandatory to have that name of that U.S. agent on your facility registration. Now, shipping any kind of food or dietary supplement, as per the Bioterrorism Act, requires that a notice be sent to the FDA. This can be filled out by a logistics provider, or the manufacturer can do it, or even a consultant, and it can be filed through the prior notice system interface, which is on the FDA's website. That's one way of doing it. There's also some logistics companies have portals as well, and commercial businesses have these portals too to file it. So, but it is mandatory to do it anywhere from 15 to 30 days in advance of shipping that product. So you really have to think, if it's coming from Africa, and just the transit time to America, which can be a few weeks. You really need to plan this in advance to make sure that prior notice is there in advance, so that you aren't in a situation where it arrives at the port, no prior notice, it's being held up. Your product is just, it's ticking away, time's ticking. You may have a retailer that's like, what's happening? How come this is stuck at the border? And, you haven't done that. So make sure that this piece is there. And of course, on the bill of lading and any other documents, and your 3PL, your logistics provider, will probably ask you of this, but, putting the information of, the registration number, the FDA registration number for the facility, the U.S. agent's name, the FSVP agent's name, right? So you have all that information on your documentation, so that it just makes it easy for the border agency and the FDA and the USDA, if applicable, to review it, no questions, and get it cleared. That's your goal: clear it through the border and get it off to retailers or to brokers or distributors. And here's just some points that we've listed here in terms of on the prior notice, what's included on it. So, all right, and here's another slide just about prior notice. So it's filling out before the shipment arrives, here's just some how it's coming in. It's gives some kind of indications of timelines, like I mentioned earlier. So now there's also regulations when it comes to acidified or low acid canned foods. So these are just some acronyms that I'm going to be using. So FCE stands for Food Canning Establishment. You'll see that used on FDA's website. SID is the Submission Identifier Number. LACF is low acid canned foods. AF are acidified foods. So there's various definitions of what is determined to be low acid or acid based products. So it's based on pH and water activity. If it's low acid canned foods, those are those that have a pH higher than 4.6 and a water activity greater than 0.85. And acidified foods are those that have a pH of 4.6 or lower, and a water activity greater than 0.85 as well. So the manufacturers of LACFs and AFs have to be registered with the FDA. So this is separate from the facility registration. So you need to get a facility registered, but you also need to have a food canning establishment registration, FCE. So there's two pieces, and there's a 5-digit identifier that again has to be presented on your documentation when you're exporting to the US. Also, the product itself has to be registered. It's a identifier number as well, the SID. And yeah, just as I mentioned here, your customs broker, make sure that you share all these details to them before exporting to the United States. And that's really just an overview of all the things, and we can help with all these areas, everything from GRAS to even determining a category of your food. Sometimes there's kind of it teeters between, is it a food? Is it a dietary supplement? So we can help clarify that for you. And of course, ensure that your ingredients are all acceptable as GRAS as well. We do full label compliance, nutrition facts, table creation on your behalf. We have a designer on our team who can take your art file and make it fully FDA compliant and print ready. So there's that option as well as on the food safety side. If you need help with even developing a HACCP plan, we can help guide you there. Or even if you ever go through an audit, or if you want a pre-audit done by us prior to the FDA arriving, we are there to support you there. Full FSVP import agent service, as I mentioned earlier, and registering your facility, filing the FCEs and SIDs, and just any kind of oversight or any kind of issues that may come up, if they ever do, with FDA. We're there to support you. And of course, as Rex had mentioned earlier, full support for Canada as well. Canada's population is about 40 million, so it's about the size of California. They are separate regulations completely. Bilingual label is required, and you need an import agent in Canada. There is no facility registration in Canada, however, so that there is that difference. All the ingredients have to be accepted, whether they're food additives or novel foods. There is a whole pathway. That way, there is no self-affirmed novel food pathway that you have to register novel foods with Health Canada or file that to obtain a no objection. It's another opportunity to capture North America as a whole. And here's just some information on how to get in touch with us. We have a few websites: Quality Smart Solutions, Quality Import, NHP license. We have another website also called grassexperts.com. Right now, it's actually a forward that goes to one of our pages on Quality Smart Solutions, but that's there as well. And the best way to contact us, info@qualitysmartsolutions.com, and our toll-free number as well. So.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andrew. So yeah, I mean, I don't see any questions on the chat at this stage. I think people, please ask questions. I'll start. And then we can hopefully it'll encourage people to not be so shy. From our side, I guess, looking, you mentioned that you don't just help with FDA and regulations and Health Canada stuff as well. You also act as a local import partner as well. What kind of stuff do you support in that? Maybe explain a little bit about that.
For sure. So yeah, it's a little bit of a misnomer. Like we aren't a broker or a distributor per se, and so that role as an import agent is really meeting the FDA requirements. So it's really it's really about traceability, and this is where that supplier verification piece is the bulk of that. We're going to make sure, okay, that manufacturer in South Africa that's planning to export United States, do they meet all the qualifications? Do they have a HACCP plan in place? And then, as mentioned, we have a hazard analysis that we conduct of the foods and beverages that would be exported to the United States. And then yeah, you just we need to have distribution records as they come in, just in the event of a recall, so that there's traceability there. But it's really a regulatory function as that FSVP import agent. It's not really a logistics provider. You would still need to work with some customs broker or a party there, but that FSVP agent is a qualified individual who has those credentials to answer those questions. If FDA has questions about that manufacturer or whatnot, that FSVP agent is who would answer those questions on behalf of the supplier.
Okay, great. And before I ask the questions are coming through, what are you really looking for if you would take on the responsibility of being the importer in US or Canada? What kind of things are you needing companies to prove to you before you say yes, I'll happily take on this job for you?
Yeah. So number one, as mentioned on the slide, like get a DUNS number, right? Easy to get. Like it's not something that you need to like it. You don't have, there's no fee for it, right? You can have it. You may never export to the United States, but you have that and it's ready, and you just save some time there, right? So you have the DUNS number, and it's actually DUNS isn't just for food and beverage. It's every company that is selling in the United States, Samsung to whoever. They all have a DUNS number. So that's number one. That's easy to get. And then there's other questions like, okay, hey, do you have a HACCP plan in place or a preventive control plan in place? Are you a bonus would be if they are GFSI certified. So that's the Global Food Safety Initiative, and that's those are programs like SQF, BRC, FSSC. There are a number of schemes under GFSI. If they have that, that really helps because that ensures that they've been audited, and those programs you require routine audits done to stay to stay GFSI certified. There are if any companies out there considering major retailers in the United States, whether they're Costco's, Walmart's, Albertsons, there's a number of them, Wegmans, whatnot. National, particularly food, drug, mass, national chains, they are looking more and more for GFSI certification. Some have it mandatory. You have to have it, otherwise we're not going to. Others give you a grace period where they'll accept maybe an NSF certificate certification in the interim, which is faster to get and have that certification in place. But then long term, they'll say, okay, we'll give you 9 months or a year to get some sort of GFSI certification so that we have that on file so we can continue doing business with you. So having a food safety plan. Also, any other countries that they've exported to, if you're exporting to Europe, for example, very stringent rules. Even if they've exported to Canada, they have stringent food safety rules, and so that also plays an important part. And yeah, those are really the key pieces. If they've ever been audited, also by third-party agencies or by government agencies worldwide, that's valuable information to know. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, just on the DUNS number, I've got a DUNS number. I'm a service provider, so I think it's if you're wanting to do anything in the market as a start, get that done. Some other questions coming through here as well. The advance notice, let's say the advance notice is is the advance notice to be done by the exporter to the US or the importer from Africa? Well, from the other way around.
It's done by the exporter. So you do it. Your customs broker does it. I mean, the importer can do it as well, but I would not necessarily rely on an importer, especially if you're working with a distributor or broker or whatnot. Like unless they have a whole structure and a team on they're ready. I would advise that the exporter do it. And it's not very complicated to do. And most of these 3PL and these customs brokers do it as part of their service. So.
Okay, great. And sort of an estimate of how much the fee is for FDA registration from your end?
Yeah, so one thing I forgot to mention too, facility registration happens every 2 years on the even numbered year. So if you are a new facility, you obviously have to register, like say you're registering this year, right? You're in 2023. But you will have to renew in 2024. And the renewal period is between October 1st and December 31st is when the FDA expects you to renew in that period. The fiscal year for the FDA starts October 1st, right? It's not January 1st, it's October 1st. But, but the FDA gives kind of this grace period. So it really starts to ramp up. Like in September, we start putting notices out saying, hey, are you going to be renewing? Are you still in business? All those things. So that happens every 2 years. And so our fee, basically, it's $9.95, and that covers the U.S. agent as the placeholder on the facility, and it also includes the facility registration. And then that U.S. agent service is an annual service, and so it's $9.95 every year. It's taken care of automatically by us, so there's no worries on their end. We just let the company know, hey, it's time for renewal. Are you just checking to make sure that you guys are still exporting to the US? So $9.95, we take care of it on that side.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about having a HACCP plan. There's just a plan, or do you need them to be certified, or?
Yeah, so it's really having a food safety plan in place. Doesn't have to be certified. The certified program is that GFSI program that I mentioned. It's that kind of brings it to that other level that maybe some retailers or brokers, distributors may ask for. It's but it's not mandatory, right? So having a HACCP or a PCP in place. If you're a manufacturer, really you need to have a full-blown HACCP plan. PCP is really more for someone who's not touching the actual physical product. It's canned already, and then they're just putting a label on, or they're an exporter, maybe they're a third-party exporter. That's where a PCP is needed, but other than that, if you're touching the product, a HACCP plan is absolutely required.
Okay, great. Just to clarify, Moto G Power, it's $995 US, not $9.95.
Yeah. That's right, $995. Yeah. Sorry, I say $995 or just $995.
$9.95 wouldn't get you a chocolate bar in the US after being.
Yeah, that's right. These days with inflation, doesn't it?
And that's every 2 years you'd need to pay that. So it's quite.
The US that's an annual service fee because our US agent service, but the registration is every 2 years. So we'll send a reminder, hey, and you register now, we'll register you again in October 2024, and then we'll renew you, and then we'll renew you again in 2026, and so on. So, okay. But the U.S. agent is an annual service, and that's that $9.95 that covers the U.S. agent. And whenever the renewal happens, we'll do that.
Okay, that's part of it. Okay, great, cool. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, please make sure to contact Andrew. I'll check his contact details onto the chat as well. Please, he's looking forward to hearing from you guys and working with as many agents, many export companies as possible. So yeah, please don't be shy. Cool. Let's just get this out. All right. Next up, we have Mit is based out in Lusaka, Zambia. He's from a company called Luano Honey. As mentioned earlier, they're one of the largest exporters of honey in Zambia. I've learned this when I was out in the US, actually in New York at Fancy Food Show, that Zambia is actually the 4th largest exporter of honey in the world. So a country in the center of Africa, getting honey out to the world, and quite a lovely honey as well coming from there. Quite dark, very rich flavor. Everyone who sampled it when I was in Summer Fancy Food was really intrigued by the flavor of the honey. Very, very different to these honeys that you get that are quite syrupy and not much depth in them. So, but Mit's going to be speaking to us today about exporting food products into the US. Mit, can you come on screen there?
Sure, Rex.
They're awesome. So just a little bit of information about Mit. He's born and raised in Zambia. He attended college in the US and the United States, where he realized the value of honey. He bought Luana Honey in May 2019, and in just a few months revived the business and then turned it into one of the top suppliers in Zambia. Great. And you go full screen there. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. Awesome. Hand over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mit. I'm the CEO of Luano Honey. And basically here today to just talk to you about my journey, the company's journey, and how we've been exporting to the US lately. So we'll start with what you're going to expect today, basically an introduction about my company, what I think is necessary to enter, how to attain it, what we've used so far, or the tools we've used and the methods we've used to export, and what, as an exporter, what to expect, and yeah, some payments, suggestions, and how we set that up, as well as some recommendations for anyone looking to export as well. So who we are. We're a value addition natural products processing company based in Lusaka, Zambia. We rural beekeepers and small scale farmers across wild forest regions in remote areas. And we basically work with these farmers who produce forest produce, fruits, honeys, chilies, avocados, pineapples, mangoes, and other things that come out of the forest. We add value, we aggregate these farmers, we procure their raw material, we add value to it, we package it and distribute it, and try to keep it in its most natural state possible. We have a huge consumer base here in Zambia itself, but since COVID ended and the world has started opening up, we've started exporting quantities to South Africa and the US. In more particularly, the US is where most of our bigger volumes has been going. Like I said, some of the products are pure honey, infused honeys, beeswax, which is a byproduct of our production. We make a habanero chili sauce and some dehydrated fruits. So yeah, basically we work in an industry where we need buyers with supply and demand. And so the main thing, what we found is that having a buyer in the US, attending trade shows, getting firsthand knowledge of the market was key initially. And we did that by attending the Summer Fancy Food Show last year. And since then, we've generated interest. We've also attended several webinars like this one itself and learned about labels and certifications and FDA registrations and the likes. And so once you have a buyer, your product has to be certified. You have to have your export documents. You have to be able to export it. You have trade protocols like AGOA that Rex mentioned, and basically most articles or most products coming out of Africa are duty-free to the United States, and quota-free as well. So that just depends on your specific product and the related HS code. You also have to keep in mind that in our case, we're procuring our raw materials in Zambian kwachas, and then we're selling in USD. So we have to be careful of rate fluctuations and time delays between payments and all the associated things that come with that. Also very important is quality. Quality is key. The US is a very competitive market. People will not pay to have an inferior quality product, and the sort of consumership is that first impressions are everything there. And if it's a new product from Africa, first of all, it's kind of like people are skeptical about the quality to begin with, but once they try it and they understand it's great quality and it's sort of regenerative, and that's basically how they procure. Packaging as well. In our case, we're changing the packaging. What you see on the screen is what we produce locally and what we sell right now. But as our volumes are increasing, we're changing all our packaging for the United States. We're coming up with plastic-free packaging that's not glass, made out of our own beeswax. So that's something that even though it would add a perceived value to our brand while we're there, if it's all encompassing in terms of sustainability, environmentalism, and social responsibility as well. Logistics is key, not only export logistics, but also logistics there in the US. Once it arrives at port, you need to think about how you're going to get it to your distributor, who you're going to hire. They're normally agents that people hire, that we hire as well, to handle all the import clearance and logistics into a warehousing or into our distributors' warehouse or things like that. We initially started with DHL door-to-door air freight, which would handle everything, including the trade protocols. So for first-time exporters that want to do small quantities, I'd recommend them just to get your product there. The margins will obviously be eaten up. In our case, the air freight was almost like $4 a bottle. And my cost FOB was $2 a bottle. So I was landing it there for like $6 a bottle, but we were still able to sell it for $10 a bottle for about 500 grams. And yeah, market intelligence, that's also very key. How you get there was research. You got to research, like I said, your protocols, where your products lie, who your target market is there a target market? Some products could be moving very well in your own local environment, but if you take that product in its current or existing packaging and put it in a completely different market that's used to something else, there could be a problem to sell. We started obviously our journey last year, or at the beginning of last year, and we exported about 25 tons of product. 20 tons was by sea freight in the container in front of you, and that was to a bulk ingredient buyer in Texas, and they make like confectionery and bars and supply bakeries with honey. And it was a good stepping stone. We negotiated our own payment terms that were both buyer and seller were comfortable with. And that's basic. And also we gave them we also told the buyers about the trade deals between Africa and America and how they'd be saving on import duties and quotas. And the buyers themselves came back to us. We shared our specifications of our product. It was agreeable to them. And we came to a conclusion and shipped a container. So then we have the trade cycle. This is based off our trade cycle. It starts with the Zambian farmer producing the raw material that we then value add. From us, it goes to a logistics company all the way to the US import agent at US port. So your logistics company would cover up basically from our factory all the way to the US port, where the US import agent would then take over. At this point, we would file the prior notices that were required for the import agent, and also for food, there's also a fact sheet, a food fact sheet that we need to file and send to the import agent in advance. The import agent then clears the cargo and arranges logistics, or we pay them to arrange logistics, but you could arrange your own logistics to your buyer or distributor warehouse. And then from there, we distribute to different buyers in the region, and it could go to a couple of African stores, which is a great entry point for any new product, because if the people that go to African stores would recognize the product without much advertising or things like that, and we actually found it easier to shelf than big box retail, which is obviously the aim at the end of the day, but as a stepping stone, it's a good platform. After that, we hit US shelves, payments start trickling in back to Luano Honey, and the cycle starts again from the Zambian farmer. And so yeah, that's basically our trade cycle. It's probably going to be similar to anyone else manufacturing food. You'd obviously have different distribution channels at the level of the US buyer distributors, where you then have your e-commerce direct to client via your website, the Amazon distributorship. There's a number of channels that one could use to sell their product rather than the traditional shelf. Some important things you need to keep in mind is export authorization of your products, so getting your relevant export permits, going through your relevant tax authorities when exporting, ensuring your logistics are reliable. That's the main thing. A lot of companies say they can get goods from point A to B, but can they do it efficiently with the least amount of resistance? And timing is everything. Our first container last year took about 3 months to get there, and this year, that was just post-COVID levels, but this year we're sending another container next week, and it's been scheduled to take about 45 days. So it's just about half, but we do expect delays and things like that. And also insurance is very important as well, to minimize your risk as an exporter. And it's something that I recommend everyone should look at when exporting. So yeah, as an exporter, as an exporter, these are our main roles. Our paperwork is legitimate and could be used anywhere in the world or at the appropriate authorities in the world. The buyers have to be real and traceable. That's the main thing. Otherwise, it's a huge risk on our products. And payment terms, like I said, have to be favorable for yourself as well as the buyer. First time sellers to the US like us, we're basically financing our own containers to the US just because no one would wait 45 days or 30 or 6 or 3 months to get their cargo from Africa. And no big box retail in the US would order directly from Africa. They would want you to stock your goods in country and then distribute. Quality key. Quality product would relate back to your clients' recurring sales, and a great entry point for your product. Delivery on time, and then always track your shipment due to unforeseen delays. If you're not on top of that, especially during COVID times, it was very difficult, but now I think it's a bit easier. And then yeah, payments, like I've said, most of our stuff is CIF in terms of its cost, insurance, and freight. But in an ideal world, you'd want to get freight on board X your factory. But like I said, dealing with the US, and if that is your target market, is very rare, unless you have long extended relationships or the buyer on personal terms. But once you do start shipments, you could always open letters of credits and things like that to help your cash flow. and yeah, make sure the packaging is what the buyer wants, what the market agrees on, and watch out for currency fluctuations. And yeah, that's basically it. Conclusions and recommendations. I would recommend anyone looking to scale their business, the US market is a viable option. It has consumers from all walks of life, so there is a target market. It's just up to you to strategize and appeal to that market. You can probably sell anything anywhere, but in the right space. In the US, due to the sheer population, and it's the biggest consumer economy on earth, which is great for food and beverage. Engaging with right agents, right partners, right trade institutions will always help. Catalyzes there, they've always helped me as well, and I would tell everyone to sort of reach out and seek help in community, especially when you're starting out. So it makes things a lot easier. Logistics partners are key, and yeah, quality again. And that's basically the end of our presentation.
Great. Thanks, Mitt. There was great information from your side. As mentioned, yeah, we were out in US with some of your products, and yeah, great. A lot of people showing interest in what you guys do. Yeah, we've got quite a few questions. Just out of interest to start with, does honey need FDA approval?
Yes, it is. So, well, not honey in a sense needs. Our facility needed to be FDA registered.
Okay.
As long as we have the phytosanitary protocols from our for our relevant authorities, we can export to the US with the FDA registration.
Yeah. And just I noticed you mentioning some African stores. As you said, you obviously have to prove to have product in market, and it's really good to get them into some smaller stores that are open to buying from Africa. Any example of one or two that you suggest people should try and contact?
Well, I can send you a list of the ones that I supply, but the way we started is just going to the cities that our stock was in, searching all the African stores around, and just going there with our product and asking them, can you shelf it? And that's basically how we got it. As long as product is in country, it shouldn't be too hard to get people to take it, even the small convenience stores in your neighborhood.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we've got a question here from Moto. How long did it take you to move from just sending sort of a courier of DHL stuff to sending a bulk load to the US?
Yeah, it took us about 6 months to a year. I started sending courier at the beginning of 2021, and then by June, July, I exported my full container load. But there was a lot of back work going on as well. We were connected through the USA Trade Hub here in Zambia, and we went to a couple of food shows. Obviously, you have to do your own research. We were cold emailing people, and that's how we got a response. And networking, basically. And that's you gotta be proactive. No buyer is gonna come definitely looking for you. You have to go out there and like email, call, buy that international calling card and just call.
Right. And currently you guys are selling under Luano Honey brand in the US, or multiple ways?
So we're selling bulk directly to ingredient buyers and dealers. And we're also co-packing in the US under our brand for launch. And I'm also air freighting a bit of material in the meantime to be a sort of stopgap from Zambia. Okay,
so good point there is that there's not one solution to that market. It's a big solution. I know when I was there on the show at Fancy Food, I had a company come around. I think I shared that with you, looking for specific bucket sizes. I think they wanted 5-liter drums of honey, because they sell them to the restaurant and service industry, and they have to be able to provide them in that size, because people use so much honey in that space. So you have to be quite flexible in what the market is asking you. Another question here from Prosy. He wanted to know how you monitor influence the quality of honey provided by local farmers.
Yeah, that's obviously now more of our groundwork that we do here. We obviously provide trainings on how to harvest, what times to harvest, how to take care of the bees, what plants to plant to promote bee health and good honey. And it's a lot of intensive time spending in the remote regions that sort of get the farmers up to quality. But once you teach a few people, then they start teaching themselves within the community, and then you'd have that, have community members and having that leadership role and just teaching people.
Okay, great. There's an ask for which logistics companies do you recommend for first-time exporters?
I'm out of Namibia. I'm using Transworld Cargo, which have pretty good experience exporting to the US as well. South Africa, unfortunately, I can't export honey through there due to the irradiation issues. It kind of gets a bit complicated. But I think Transworld Cargo have offices at most ports throughout Africa. So it's something that you could just look up, transworldcargo.com, I think, and just find out your nearest office.
Awesome. I've got another one here. The Sauce Queen in SA. She's a sauce manufacturer, and she's quite keen to have a look at your hot sauce, your habanero hot sauce in bottles. So yeah, have a look there. Maybe message her, but I'll share its details after this. The Sauce Queen can contact you. And what else have we got here? I think there's some information on import brokers as well. Again, Londiwe, I would contact Mit directly for questions on how much he's paying for an import broker. And another question: what quality food standards are you currently certified for?
I have our local Zambia Bureau of Standards clearance, but I had HACCP. I'm in the process of renewing it. Eventually, my co-packer in the US is GFSI certified, so we'll probably just write off their certification for the US.
Great. And how long did it take you to certify your product in regard of all the US regulations?
In terms for the US, it wasn't really difficult. Once you have the FDA registration, for first-time exporters, there's leeway where you can export certain amounts of products in a year, or a certain value of products in a year, without having it to be too complicated, especially if it's from an African AGOA country. And that way, that's how we started. But once you cross the threshold, you have to have more stringent paperwork and certifications.
Great. And have you ever had anyone from a consultant have to come out to your facilities to audit you, or is it all being done virtually at this stage?
At this point, it's all being done virtually, but we've been informed that the FDA could send at any given notice someone to inspect our facility. And that's part of having the FDA registration.
Okay, so you gotta keep on your toes there for that.
Yeah.
there's a question about sharing your list of stores and supermarkets you supply in Africa and South Africa. Again, I would say you're going to have to speak to Mitt directly. It's a very secret list that he's got there. But yeah, just a direct message on the chat. That's fine. I think that's about it. I think you've mentioned that if you were HACCP originally, but you're now riding on some of your importers certifications, and that was the same thing that Andrew was mentioning, that you have to sort of have a HACCP plan and have certain protocol in place, but not necessarily certified. So. And you can rely on your US importer to assist you with that. A really good question here, the final one from Catherine, just mentioning, how do you find out what the value of your products is in a market, and you sort of, I guess that's a pricing product point, how do you find out what to market your product is at the right price in the market?
Yeah, in the US, I've found a general trend in terms of products. So if it's selling on Amazon or on retail shelves for like $20 a kg, normally buyers or importers or people along the chain would buy it for about half the cost. So like our honey, we priced it at $3 per kg FOB Lusaka, because in the US, we did a back calculation off of the same shelf price, and it was more or less acceptable. And I've noticed that for a multitude of products besides honey, but you got to do your market research. That's all I can say. But yeah, it's about half of whatever it's selling on shelf.
All right. And Cos, thanks for clearing that up. There were some FDA visits. Seems it looks like they do them in sort of clumps as well. They do give notice, but I think the key here is that they probably you sort of have to make sure that you are compliant throughout the process, because if you want to get yourself ready for them, it's not necessarily going to take you a few days or weeks. You have to keep your standards up throughout the year. But thanks for clearing that up. They do give you notice. It just, you have to just keep your standards up. Great. And great news from Marlene Jose as well, just also doing her first container across to the US. So that's great, and a 40-foot one at that. So great. Thank you very much for your time, Mitt. And yeah, keep up the good work. Keep on exporting. It sounds like it's going really well. Lots of opportunities in the US at the moment, and yeah, really from what I saw at Summer Fancy Food, and when I discussed with people, very, very much open to buying product from Africa at the moment in the US. They've got a lot of restrictions on certain other parts of the world, looking to open up new markets, keep the flow of products into the US, also looking for different prices as well for things. So really open to that. There's also what we've discovered is a very strong interest in buying African made products from the US. So and also in shops, putting up very diverse products on there. So they do, a lot of the shops now have like a heritage and cultural spaces in their stores, something that people want to find something different and exciting to cook with, or something sourced in different places. So yeah, a lot of people came up to me during Summer Fancy Food asking about that and getting something a little bit different and a bit more exotic. So yeah, definitely a good time to get into the US market. Next up, we have Daniel Kotze from EcoCert Group, as introduced a little bit earlier. He's based in South Africa. Daniel's got to speak to us on organic certification based on the National Organic Program that comes out of the US. Just to give a little intro to Daniel, after completing his BSc on conservation ecology and MSc in plant pathology at Stellenbosch University, Daniel joined EcoCert South Africa as an auditor in 2015, and he has been the general manager of the subsidiary since 2019. The subsidiary manages sustainable certification in Southern and East Africa, which allowed him to gain valuable knowledge of the agricultural sector through his travels in the sub-region. The office is based in Somerset West near Cape Town, South Africa. Let me stop sharing, and then I know you can share through your slides. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks a lot, Rex. And thanks for the opportunity to be able to speak about organic certification. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
All looks good, and yeah, I can see it very clearly. So
Wonderful.
Take it away.
Thanks a lot. So today I want to just speak to you about organic certification, because this is normally something that not a lot of people speak about it, about organic products, but not a lot of people know what's really involved in terms of being able to put the word organic on your product. And we're going to focus today specifically on products entering the United States. And in order to have a product enter the United States with the wording of organic on the packaging, you need to be certified according to the National Organic Program. And this program is owned by the United States Department of Agriculture, or USDA. So this is also one of the regulatory bodies that Andrew was referring to in his presentation, that plays a big role in terms of regulating compliance in the food industry. And just to give you a quick summary in terms of EcoCert as a company and what we do, as you can see from my rugby jersey, we are based in South Africa, and we have been operating EcoCert as a group. We've been operating for more than 32 years. We started in France, so our head office is still based in France in 1991, and our core is still in organic certification specifically, but since then we've really branched out into a wide variety of different sustainable certifications. So we remain the leader in organic certification worldwide, and also in cosmetic, so organic cosmetic and natural cosmetic certification as well. And then we do a variety of work in a variety of sectors. So in agri-food, cosmetics, inputs, also the certification of fertilizers and pest control substances according to the organic standards. Certain sustainable standards where you include partially, your environmental standard and your conservation standard, with I would say an element of social standards as well, and then also some pure social standards, fair trade standards. The one that we offer is called Fair for Life. Now, if we look at standards as a whole, you can split up standards, in two groups. The one is really private standards, where this has nothing to do with legislation in a certain country. It's a standard that you can apply for if this is something that your importer wants you to do. And these standards, like I say, it's not required by government if you want to, import or export. So some of these would include, you'll see, like Rainforest Alliance is a very popular standard. You'll see if you take like a Nestle Bar One or KitKat, you'll probably see the Rainforest Alliance logo on those. And then some other standards like Naturland is based in Germany. It's like being organic, but you've got some additional requirements. BioSwiss is the Swiss organic regulation, although it's not, again, associated with legislation in that country, and then some fair trade and social standards. So Then you get your national standards, and these are the ones that are really associated with legislation, meaning that legally you're not allowed to, in this case, export organic, or allow your products won't be allowed as organic into a certain country if you don't comply to these rules. So this includes the National Organic Program, or NOP. The EU has also got their own organic regulation. Japan has got their own organic regulation, which we refer to as JAS. And then Korea, these are the organic certification, or KOC. These are probably the most popular ones that we do in our region, although there's a range of other, a lot of countries have got their own. Taiwan has got their own standard now. China has got their own standard now. Mexico has got their own standard. So there's a lot of different countries with their own standards, but at the end of the day, it's also depends on how strong trade agreement we have with certain countries. And because we've got such a strong trade agreement with the EU and the NOP, and also because they've got a very strong consumer base in terms of organics, these are normally your most popular standards. And also, just to understand how it links together, if you are, let's say you're based in America and you want to export to the EU, you only need to be certified according to the NOP. And there's an equivalency agreement between the EU and America, and the same vice versa. So if you produce organic produce in the EU, you only have to be certified according to that standard, and you can export your product directly to America. Same goes for Japan as well. So I would say these three big entities have all got equivalencies with each other. The issue with a country, and they refer to it as a third country, like South Africa, which is situated outside of these regions, is there's no equivalency agreements, meaning that if I'm a farmer and I want to export my produce to America, I need to be certified according to NOP. If I want to also certify the same export the same produce as organic to the EU, I also need to be certified according to this regulation. Same for Japan. So this becomes a lot of compliance at the end of the day. So it's a lot of work for companies because each of these standards is similar in a way, but also they've got their differences. And obviously, there's a lot of administration that goes along with each and every of these standards. So you would find companies, for instance, in South Africa that are certified for 4 to 5 organic standards alone to access those markets. And then additionally, they would have to also still, have whether it's a global gap or a HACCP or BRC or a social standard that they also need to apply for. So it can become quite complex. But today we're only going to be focusing on the standard for exporting organic produce to America. Luckily, this standard also it gives you access to the Canadian market as well, because these two markets have got an agreement. So you can export if you've got NOP certification in South Africa. You also have access to the Canadian market, and then also you can have access to the local market with the standard as well. We do have, at the moment, we don't have any organic legislation in South Africa, but there are certain private standards, organic private standards in South Africa. But if you would, you want to sell your product to a Woolworths or to a Spar, you would go into the shop and you would actually see, if I go in there and I pick up different organic products, I would see some of them have got USDA certification, some of them have got EU organic certification. So they generally accept any one of the the major organic certification standards. So this would give you quite a variety of access, not necessarily only in the USA. So what is the scope of the standard? It actually includes all products in terms of the agricultural standard that you can produce. So whereas the EU standard, for instance, would only allow you to do food products, the NOP standard actually allows you to do any type of agricultural product, even if it's not for food purposes. What is excluded? It's aquaculture, wild animals, and hydroponics. Then you get different types of operators in terms of organics. You would get so the whole supply chain, needs to be certified or almost certified. We'll speak about that a little bit later. But we have farmers, whether they're doing crop farming, livestock, beekeeping. You also have processors, the guys that are doing, the factories, or sometimes doing the primary processing on farm. You've got traders, exporters, and importers. You've got wild harvesting and collecting. These are guys that are not farming, but going into areas and doing collecting of wild crops. And then one of the categories of the farmer certification is the option to form a grower group. And this is having a lot of, if you have a lot of, let's say you've got 2,000 small farmers, each of them have got 1 hectare, 1.5 hectare. Obviously, it's not going to make sense, to have each of these farmers gain independent certification. So you apply as a group, and you appoint, an internal inspector or field staff that does the checks in terms of compliance for these farmers. And you would have a company like EcoCert come out and do an audit and just check a percentage of, let's say, 5% of these farmers will then be checked in terms of compliance. It's more, the audit is really more focused on checking the internal control system of the group itself. And then interesting, just looking at the facts around the US market, some figures in terms of is the organic industry really growing or not. So it is the fastest growing food sector in the US industry at the moment. And between 21 and 22, it's grown by 7.3%. And it's actually, it's the consumer market and value is larger than the EU, the whole of the EU market at the moment. So in the US, it's estimated at around $60 billion. And then we do have a database of all of the NOP operators that are certified globally. So we're looking at about 30,000 operations or companies that are certified, and around 200 of them is situated in South Africa. And if you're looking at farming size, so on the database, they've reported about 2.2 million hectares, although this is only 50% of the producers that's reported. So we can extract that and extrapolate that, and maybe look, probably we're looking at about 4 million hectares that are certified organic according to this standard, and probably about 22 million hectares globally. Then there's different reasons for why people choose organic and why companies choose to go organic. Mostly it's based on 3 different factors. So from the consumer side, it's healthier food that they're eating. Really based on 2 things. The one is that you should find a lot less pesticide residues on your products. The products are not allowed to be genetically modified. It has been proven to be more nutritious, so you've got higher levels of vitamins and antioxidants. And then from a personal point of view, some people also choose this because by doing this, they personally are promoting sustainable farming systems. Then if you look at the environmental side, how is this really helping the environment or the farms? So there's less harmful pesticides that are emitted. We've got healthy soils. So really the movement from conventional agriculture to organic is you really move from focusing on the crop and farming with the crop to becoming focused on the soil. You sort of become you're farming with the soil. And that's what you're focusing on, is trying to keep your soils really healthy, and a healthy soil would mean a healthy crop at the end of the day. So you are preserving natural ecosystems. You're using biodiversity to your advantage, and you're not trying to kill off biodiversity or reduce biodiversity to just improve your crops. And in terms of, on the farming side, less CO2 emissions and less water wastage because of proper soil cover. In terms of companies, so if you think I'm quite interested in doing this. Why would it benefit a specific company? Firstly, you would find healthier working conditions for your workers, especially on the farms. You can actually distinguish your product, whereas it's because the market has become very competitive. The global markets opened up, so you need to find specific ways to differentiate your product from someone doing a similar product to you. And having an organic certified product is definitely one way to do that. In most of the cases, you will be able to ask a premium price for your product as well. And we know that you'll be part of a rapidly growing consumer market. And then in terms of your company as well, having organic certification is really adding value to your brand and adding value to your image. But also in terms of some big companies, they also do this. They would have, doing big conventional products, and then have one small line of organic products, and then people might call this greenwashing to try and increase their image, although they're not really doing it for the right reasons. Okay, so a lot of you might wonder, how does organic certification work? Can I just sign a contract with a certification body? If I decide I want to farm organically, I do it, and then tomorrow, I harvest my crop and I sell it as organic. And that's not really the case. So your field needs to be under organic management for at least 3 years before you can harvest your crop as organic. So if we take the example of someone farming with wine grapes, he wants to produce organic wine, and let's say he used a disallowed substance, maybe he used a herbicide in January of 2023. It would mean that from January 2023, he would need to go through 3 years, so until January 2026, before his fields will be classified as organic. So the 3 crops for 23, 24, and 25 will still have to be harvested and marketed as conventional. And then only in 2026 will this farmer be able to harvest his first organic grapes. Then the basic organic farming principles. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details in terms of what are the rules and regulations with regards to them, but I'm going to just give you an overview of the basic principles, and then also what an audit entails. So when you're using planting material, it should be organic planting material. It's very strongly based on the principle of crop rotation to maintain healthy soils. You need to really make use of natural means of crop protection. If you've got an issue with mice in your maize field, rather to be looking at owls, putting up owl houses or perches to control the mice, than use poison. And then, there is products available, organic products available, and there are certain products. There's a national list of products that's allowed to be used. Some of them are synthetic, that's allowed to be used, but the real principle is to only use these if there's no other option available to you. So the one big thing is that there is no herbicides that would be allowed for use. So this is sometimes a big challenge for the organic guys, is you need to either do manual weeding on your farms, or you would need to find different ways. We've got guys with some machinery that works. Other guys are experimenting with machines that's using steam to kill off the weeds. But a lot of guys are practicing, making sure you've got cover crops and you've got mulch on your soil to also inhibit your weed growth. So like I said, there's a limited list of inputs allowed. Generally, what NOP is saying is that everything that's natural, we allow, except, and then they've got a very small list of natural things that are not allowed, like arsenic, for instance. Tobacco dust is one of the other things. And then they say everything that's synthetic, we don't allow, except, and then they've got a list of synthetic elements that would be allowed for use. And then interesting just that for the EU, they do not allow parallel production. So it means that if you're exporting to the EU, if you have a farm, you cannot do, let's say you're farming with oranges, you cannot have organic and conventional oranges on the same farm. You need to decide which type of farming you're going to practice. Whereas for the America, under the NOP program, you can actually have one farm and you can decide, I want to do 3 blocks, 3 orchards, I want to do organic, and 5 orchards I'm going to do conventional. But they're very strict in terms of if you are doing this, that you have very good traceability and that you have buffer zones between your organic and your conventional fields. Then if we move on to the audit on the farm, a lot of people are quite stressed in terms of receiving an audit at the farm, but to be honest, it's not a very complicated thing. It really involves physical checks and documentary checks. It's split up into those 2 sections. And I always say, like, if you're a good farmer and a good farmer records what he does, then there's really no reason to be stressed about an audit. So your physical field would involve the auditor going to the fields, going to your storage area to check your inputs. If there's other warehouses, storage areas on the farm, and the auditor can also have interviews with some of the farm workers. Documentary wise, they're going to check your field records. What have you done? What products have you used in your specific fields? He's going to have a look at the maps, your guarantees and purchase records specifically in terms of the inputs that you use, and then perform a balance in terms of your estimated yield and versus what you've actually harvested at the end of the day. And then I've just included a picture here of, this is one of the oldest pecan farms in South Africa, and they've actually farmed organic pecans from the start. And if I visited, actually started when I started as an auditor, I think this is one of my first audits that I did, and it was incredible actually to be. You'll see the sheep at the back there, who's the natural controller of the weeds. But really, if you walk into these orchards, you dig into the soil, you find fungi, you find earthworms, you can see birds flying around, insects. So you see a really nice biodiversity and an ecosystem that's working. And this also, you can really see it in the trees as well. So this was a really, for me, it was really great to see how an organic farm can work. Then if you move from the farm to the factory, so if you move to the processing side of things, there's also some basic principles. A lot of people would normally ask, do I need to set up a completely new factory or a separate factory if I want to do organic products as well? And the answer is really no, you don't have to. You can actually use, you can even use the same processing line if you're doing organic and conventional produce. But then again, obviously, it's very important that you make sure that when you are switching and you've done conventional produce and you're switching to organic produce, that there's a very good clean out and there's no residues left of the conventional products. So you also get different categories in terms of certification, organic certification. So you can have, if it's a pure agricultural product, you can market this as 100% organic. If there's some additives, allowed additives, you can classify this as organic. And if there's some conventional elements, but some organic elements, you can actually say, maybe you have a fruit juice made with organic oranges. Maybe you've got some conventional apples or pears in there. Make sure that you buy, obviously, from certified organic suppliers. There is a limited list in terms of which additives and processing aids you can use. Like I said, mixed processing is allowed. You can do both in the same factory or in the same processing line, as long as it's separated in terms of either space or time. And then again, no, even in your additives or processing aids, no genetically modified material is allowed, no ionization, and no sewage sludge. And of course, the standard is quite strict in terms of making sure that you've got batch numbers. It's completely traceable from the end consumer product, back to farmer level. and also in terms of making sure your labeling is compliant. And then if we have a look at labeling, what can you use on your label if you are certified according to the NOP standards? So you would be allowed so let's say it's a pure agricultural product. You can say it's 100% organic. So in this case, it's a tomato sauce. This is actually one of the, because I saw the certified organic tomato sauce at Woolworths, and this was actually imported from the US. So it had the NOP certification, and you would be able to use the USDA organic seal. It's not a requirement to use it, so you don't have to use it. And the same with EcoCert. The EcoCert logo is not a requirement to use, but you are allowed to use it. And then the only thing that's really a requirement is that beneath your, identification of your company, you would have the phrase that says certified organic by, and you would have, for instance, EcoCert, if EcoCert is your certification body. So a lot of people would phone us and they would say, I want, I'm looking for USDA certification. So they get quite confused. Whereas it's USDA is the body that's regulating it, but it's really called NOP, or National Organic Program certification. Then in terms of the audit, so again, we're looking at physical and documentary checks for your processing audit. If an auditor would come to your factory, he's going to check your lines, your processing lines. How do you separate if you are doing mixed production? How is your input stored? If there's other warehousing or storage areas, and it could also include interviews with workers. And in terms of documents, making sure that we check records, checking the site plan, your flow diagrams, everything that you've purchased, invoices, and then very important, there's a balance between what's going in and what's coming out. So, if you are doing, you've got apples coming into the factory and you are producing apple juice, we're going to check the conversion factor, and we're going to make sure that there's a good balance between what's coming in and what's going out, so that we can confidently say that this factory did not buy in conventional apples, and they are selling organic, and they're selling this as organic apple juice. Traceability, and then your just standard procedures. So I would say it's almost like a light quality standard to also check your recall procedure, cleaning procedures. And most of these things, if a company is already certified according to one of a HACCP or BRC, it really makes the audit a lot easier, because we don't require you to write completely new. If you have a risk analysis plan, or if you have already a traceability and a recall procedure, you can simply refer to those documents and say, it's already in place. And then if we get to the export side, very interesting, according to this standard, the brokers, traders, and exporters and importers currently don't need to be certified. But, and this is a big but, there is a new strengthened organic enforcement that's being implemented in March of next year. And this would actually require a lot more. So it would require everything that's mentioned there, brokers, traders, exporters, importers, to also be certified. If you look at this, so everything that's in green currently needs to be certified. So only production, processing, and packaging. Whereas after March 2024, you're going to have everyone, even if you are, the logistics company that's loading things onto a ship, the specific, the shipping company itself doesn't need to be certified. And really if you are selling final product to a consumer, like if you're a shop, a retail shop, you won't need to be certified, but pretty much everyone else in the supply chain would need to be certified. And this would have quite an effect on the industry, because if you're looking at, for instance, home delivery, if we look at, courier companies, guys like Takealot in South Africa that are every day, delivering things, different packages. If all of these guys now suddenly need to be certified if they want to deliver an organic product to someone's home, it's going to have quite big implications. So the certification bodies from our side, we are speaking with the USDA to find out exactly, to make sure that we understand the regulations in the right way, to make sure that we can communicate this to our clients as well, so that we can anticipate the changes for next year. Currently, what's happening is if you are exporting as well, there's no requirement in terms of if you're exporting to the US, you don't need to have except for your organic certificate, there's nothing else required for you. You can apply for something that we call a transaction certificate. And this is normally a lot of the US importers would ask an exporter, can you please, send me a transaction certificate? And this is just, it's a document that's a validation by the certification body to say that we validate that, this company, if they're exporting coffee, for instance, that this batch of coffee that they are selling is covered under our certification, and we give our stamp of approval on that. So again, this is going to become compulsory. It's already a compulsory thing for the EU. So if you're exporting to the EU, you have to get a transaction certificate for every consignment that you export, and this will become the same for the National Organic Program. What we'll use to manage this is what we call the OID, the Organic Integrity Database, and it's already the Organic Integrity Database. It's already online and it's an open platform, so anyone can access this. And what's really nice about this platform is, I'll show you an example, is that you can go onto this database and you can type in, so you can, for instance, select a country like South Africa, and it will give you a list of everyone in South Africa that is certified according to the standards. So it's great for people that are, if you're looking for suppliers of ingredients, it's a really nice platform to use, and it shows you as well, like for which products these guys are certified. The nice thing is that in future, like from March, all of the certificates will also be available and accessible to the public on this website as well. So you should find all of your certificates, not only a summary of the client, but you should find the certificates online as well. And then just in terms of exports from our region specifically, and this is now only based on EcoCert clients. So we do have about 60% of the market share in the region, but there's other organic certification bodies as well with clients. So the stats that I'm giving you is not the total for the sub-region, but really the total for our client base. And we issued about 350 transaction certificates to the US from our region, and our region is Southern and East Africa. And remember that I said that a transaction certificate at the moment is not compulsory. So also this information doesn't mean that this is, the complete list of products that went to the US. It's probably a portion of this, but it still gives us a good idea of which countries are really exporting. So interesting, about 39% of the transaction certificates that were applied for came from Ethiopia. Everything was coffee. So there's a big movement of coffee to the US, and 99% of that is green beans. And so they're not exporting roasted coffee, they're actually exporting green beans. And you have your big roasting companies in the US that are roasting. Normally, especially for Ethiopia, it's the coffee beans have got a very strong, let's say, a floral aroma. And a lot of the guys in the US especially, they like to put let's say a 5 or 10% of these specific coffee beans in the blends that they're doing. About 28% of the certificates were issued from South Africa, 15% Uganda, 13% Kenya, and then 5% of other Southern and East African countries. And then just lastly, in terms of exports, if you look at specific products, which products are really doing good and are being exported, I already mentioned coffee. So in terms of the transaction certificates, we were looking about, there's about 2,400 metric tons that were exported in 2022 to the US. organic coffee, and from South Africa, rooibos, honeybush, wine, buchu, different oils, Tutu oil, eucalyptus, Kalahari melon seed, some indigenous oils like Manketi oil, medicinal products like devil's claw and aloe vera. Macadamia nuts is quite popular. Then your superfoods, moringa-based products, baobab-based products, turmeric, gooseberry, different types of seeds like sesame, teff, chia. Your classic commodities like vanilla and cocoa, shea butter and passion fruit. And then also we do some certifications in northern Ethiopia and Somalia, where myrrh and gum arabica is also quite popular. And then honey, also only coming from Zambia. So interesting enough, if at the moment our clients in Zambia they can't export any organic honey to South Africa because due to a certain disease, the South African government has made a rule that all honey needs to be irradiated before coming into South Africa. And like you saw in the slides, ionizing irradiation is not allowed in organic agriculture. So this, would downgrade the honey to conventional. So it's really at the moment, we've got quite a few people in South Africa that are looking for organic honey to be used in different organic products. So I think there's quite some opportunities in terms of that locally. But I think if you're looking at the list of products here, you would see mostly these products are really things that are indigenous products, things that you would only find in Africa, a lot of them, and I think that's also, if you're looking at something that you want to certify organic, if it's a niche product as well, this is a good place to start. And then just finally, if you are interested in certification, where do you start? So you would have a request. So you would find a certification body like EcoCert, and you would ask them, I have a project, this is what I do, I farm, or I process, and you fill in an application form, and they send a quotation to you. You would then, if you're happy, you sign the quotation, meaning that you're committed. Now you become a contracted client. We then organize the audit, the on-site audit to take place. And after the audit takes place, the auditor will submit his file to a certification officer who's reviewing the file. And then finally, you would receive your certification. And the moment you have your certificate, you would be allowed to start trading. Thank you for your patience. That's all from my side.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Daniel. So we've got a question here, but please, everyone else, start adding yours in as well. What is the connection between organic foods and the transportation used to distribute it? As a start.
Sorry, Rex, just repeat the question.
Okay, so yeah, you froze there. What is the connection between organic foods and the transportation used to distribute it?
In terms of, I'm not exactly sure what the person needs to know, but in terms of the transport used, if you are, for instance, if you're transporting final product like packed and sealed product, for now, you're not required to be certified for that. So it's seen as, outside of the certification scope. If you are, however, if you're transporting bulk produce, so let's say, you're doing big truckloads of bulk maize, this would be something that would be inside the scope of certification. But like I mentioned, for coming next year, you would be, even if you are transporting packaged organic produce, you would need to be certified for that. And to be honest, I'm not exactly sure why why they're doing it, because obviously there's always risk involved, but for me, in terms of like warehousing and packaged products, the risk of of something really happening there is quite low. So I think you know, there has been quite a couple of big organic fraud cases, especially in the US, where they've realized, you know, that guys are, and this is on a massive scale, where people have traded conventional products as organic. And I think they are really focusing and trying to see, you know, trying to implement all the measures they can to make sure that you know, that when a product is marketed as organic, that there's a certain amount of trust from the consumer side. I mean, that's actually the case.
Okay, cool. And are there any attempts towards more circular economy or environmentally sustainable chain? Perhaps is that something that's being pushed internationally as well?
For sure, it's it's actually a strange concept in terms of your looking at, especially if you're looking at carbon footprint. Sometimes it's, you know, you see organic certification as a sustainable standard, and you would also think that, you know, there would be a sense of also in terms of compliance, you have a lower carbon footprint. So for sure, in terms of, you know, the management of your company, but in terms of also transporting some of your ingredients, there's no real, they're not going to limit you in terms of, you know, in terms of your transportation. Because I'm thinking of a couple of examples, like we've now last week I received an application from a client that's they are importing organic shrimp into South Africa. The shrimp is produced in Madagascar, then it's cooked in France, and then it's exported back to South Africa. And the same for some, even for some, we've got some chocolate or some hot, let's say they're producing hot chocolate. The cocoa is produced in West Africa, then that goes to Belgium to be processed into chocolate drops. Then it comes to South Africa and it's crushed in South Africa, and it goes into tins, and then it's exported back to the EU as hot chocolate powder. So very interesting. So for me, it's, I mean, for sure, in terms of sustainability, you would look at both, you know, organic for sure in terms of the way that people are farming, but you know, local and sustainable are also, you know, I would say organic and local is two things that can be seen separately, but both are you know, really working towards a more sustainable product.
Okay, cool. Look, I think that also relies on your buyers as well, because, you know, when you've seen that overseas, well, in the US, the criticism that I had on honey with products that I had there were, they were in plastic bottles, but they obviously wanted them in glass because they prefer that, and the market demands that. But it just comes down to your buyer saying, you know, we want to see a lower carbon footprint on something that's more their requirement than necessarily the organic certification. Another question came in here: can my products be certified organic if I'm adding gelling agent such as Carbomer 940? Just for a hair product.
Okay, for hair products, I'm not a technical expert in terms of what's required. In terms of if you are doing let's say you're doing a natural or an organic hair product, it's going to mean that if you're doing an organic product, then your natural ingredients that you add to the product would need to be certified organic, or at least a percentage of that. And then there's a list of allowed additives and processing aids that you would be able to add to that personal care product. So in terms of what exactly that list entails, I mean, it's easy for us to check. It's actually easy for you to also check, because the list is the standard is called Cosmos, and the list is actually publicly available in terms of what you can add to the product. So it's you would be able to you know, to Google Cosmos cosmetic standard and just check the list of allowed ingredients to see if it's there.
Awesome. That's great. So it's Cosmos. We'll share that information. And then just finally, a question from me. What kind of trips people up when they first come to you and they say, hey, I want to get certified, what's the key mistake people are making, and what are you expecting for them to provide you so that the process is smooth?
I think obviously the same, and it's not only with organic certification. It's really with I think with all certifications. People have this a fear of paperwork and administration that goes around that goes along with it. And I think just the perception of seeing it as an administrative burden compared to really looking at it as a way to improve your company is what I would say is the big differentiation between someone that and from a certification point of view, you can also you can actually see the companies that are doing the minimum to actually comply because they want to get a premium. And people that are really committed because they want, they want to make a difference and they want a more sustainable product. So what we are doing from a certification point of view is we know that you want, the administration to be as little as possible, and we've really created an online portal for the clients. Where it makes it extremely easy to populate and create your profile, to communicate with the office, to arrange audits. Everything is done through this online portal, and all of your requests, all of your approval requests, everything is managed there. So we are really trying to push to a point where where certification becomes very accessible, to people that can't spend a lot of time to have administration and complete files. But I must say, in most cases, organic certification is a nice industry to work in because it's not a forced standard. People are not forced to do it. So mostly when people come to you, it's something that that they want to comply to because it's something that the consumers or the importer want. It's not something that's that's forced onto them by the government. So we're not seen as police officials or SARS agents or something. So in general, we're really seeing a change, especially in terms of if you look on the production side, in the farming community, the new generation farmers that are coming along, and these guys are quite market savvy in terms of they more business orientated in terms of looking at your farm and how to really distinguish their products, and they are looking at things like organic certification and asking a lot of more scientifically based and asking the right questions in terms of maybe if I don't use this chemical, I will lose a certain amount of products, but what's going to be the value of losing this product compared to what I'm actually losing in sustainability, and what I'm actually paying for the chemical or things like that. So it's an exciting industry to be in, and I think more and more people are looking towards this to say that okay, how can I differentiate my product, and really find a good framework for producing a sustainable product.
Great. And final question just popped in here. I'm not sure about this, but the buyer of the product must be paid the premium price for the product. Is this a description of organic regulation? Is there something prescribed in it that the price? I'd be surprised if it was, but.
So no, it's, I mean, in terms of organics, I mean, obviously you negotiate and you determine the price and the price premium with the client. It is interesting because there are certain standards where a premium has to be paid. If you're looking at your fair trade standards, there's a certain amount and there's a floor price. So if you're looking at our standard Fair for Life, for instance, if you need to have a specific importing partner for this fair trade agreement, and you have to reach an agreement with your importing partner to pay at least the floor price as an additional amount that's paid into a workers account, for instance. So their premium is part of the regulation, and this premium goes towards improving the livelihoods of your workers. But in terms of organic, it's not written within the regulation.
Great. That's very clearly answered. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for your time, Daniel. Great information. I put the link to EcoCert there, so please contact EcoCert on that. They'll assign somebody to you and help you with getting your product certified. Good to know it's not a requirement from government. They like to deal with you, but obviously always a key with anything like this. You have to have your documents in place and be ready to supply a lot of documents, because that's the requirement of any certification. So that comes to the end of our presentation today in the webinar. Thank you everyone for joining. As mentioned, we do an edit of this and get it down to sort of a 3-minute slideshow for you. So we'll put that together over the next few weeks. So you can watch, but it will also be available on YouTube. So if there's anything you wanted to cross-check, let us know. Also, please don't hesitate to get onto the USA, onto our program. So it's quite a simple process. Just a matter of you filling in a form. I'm going to post the form here now for you. So we just profile you and ensure that then we are able to help you. So putting the link here again, click on that, get involved, and one of my team will be in contact to help you. So yeah, looking forward to chatting with you all. Going to be signing off now, and thank you to all our speakers, Andrew from Canada, Mitt from Zambia, and Daniel from South Africa. Great having you on today. Have a lovely day.